So welcome to the latest version of the Accelerator Partner Series. And in this series, we've addressed all kinds of different topics. And today we're going to talk about cyber insurance. And today we have with us, my name is Vince Kearns. I'm a cyber risk specialist here at Trend Micro, and I'm leading our cyber insurance initiative. And, being a former channel guy, I just really, anything that we learn about cyber insurance, we're always thinking in the back of our mind, how can our partners be involved with this? How can we help create messaging? Because cyber insurance, think of it as the final leg of risk mitigation. Customers buy security solutions to mitigate risk, and having a cyber insurance policy is a way for them to have that full plan to have a risk assessment, risk strategy. And Larry is with DataStream, a full service cyber insurance broker. Larry, would you like to introduce yourself?
Well, I think I can handle that. Vince, I appreciate it. It's always good to see you. Always fun to talk with you. And, on behalf of DataStream, we're thrilled to be part of Trend's Accelerator Partner Series. And hopefully we can add a little value here. But my name is Larry Meador. I am the channel chief with DataStream Cyber Insurance. And as Vince just told you, we are a specialist cyber-only broker. We got about 40 different carriers in our portfolio, and we truly exist to be a resource for our MSP partners, MSSP partners, to educate you, your sales staff, educate your customers, you name it. So we're just here to try to make this process much easier, much faster, and remove some of the confusion. I mean, hey, look, you're not going to offend me. Not many people really want to jump on the phone and talk about insurance. I totally get that. So that's why we exist, is try to make things a little bit easier for you and just give you that resource to come to for all things cyber insurance related.
Excellent. And one of the things, being a longtime trender and longtime participant in the IT channel, one of the things that really hit me is that the brokers are the ones that are working with the customer to, just like a channel partner does, understand the needs of the customer and then go out to different carriers in order to find the right policy for your customer. So getting on the horn with a broker that specializes in cyber like DataStream is can really close a lot of gaps in how you're talking to your customers about cyber insurance. So we're going to kick off here. I do have to, our moderator was not able to make it today, so Larry and I are going to self-moderate here. So I'm going to be asking some of the questions, and then I'm going to answer them too. So bear with us here. So we're going to talk about some challenges in cybersecurity and cyber insurance. So Larry, lay some foundation and briefly talk about some of the shifts and challenges in the cybersecurity and cyber insurance space. What are you seeing out there that a channel partner would want to know as they communicate to their customers about cyber insurance?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a couple of things, go down a couple of paths here real quick. Cyber insurance has been around a lot longer than many people realize. Matter of fact, it's been around since the 1990s, but you just didn't hear about it. It was really kind of right before the pandemic, during the pandemic, and after the pandemic that all of a sudden it exploded. You heard it, cyber insurance, all of this, and rates are tripling and all that good stuff. And there are some reasons behind that. And that's simply because many carriers jumped into cyber insurance several years ago without really having a good grasp on what exactly cybersecurity was and what needed to be done to mitigate risk and different things like that. Those carriers started losing the shirt off their back when those ransomware claims came in and other stuff like that. So now we're seeing a little bit more of a mature marketplace, and we're actually kind of seeing, there is a kind of a tiered system developing amongst the carriers. The better carriers typically have a little bit more stringent requirements in place. And again, we work with over 40 carriers, and they're all good carriers, but each one, certain ones have a little bit more requirements in place than some of the others. And so we're always trying to help and make sure that we stay in front of things and make sure that we keep the MSPs and MSSPs out there educated on what those requirements are, because no matter how you look at it, cyber insurance is here to stay. And it is really driving sales for MSPs and accelerating that sales cycle and reinvigorating sales cycles for many of the partners that we deal with. And, a lot of us just, it ties back. I mean, the biggest risk that most businesses face today is cyber risk because it's a dynamic risk. I mean, Vince, you know this as well as I do. There's bad threat actors out there that are changing the rules of the game every minute of the day. They're evolving, they're innovating, and it's tough to stay on it. So
Yeah.
it's I'll throw it back to you here because I know we're kind of self-moderating. I don't want to be the one doing all the talking because Lord knows I can talk.
Yeah. You said a couple things about the life cycle of cyber insurance, and just to emphasize that for the audience, pre-2019, it was easy street. Cyber insurance was the fastest growing segment of the insurance industry. It was the golden boy, right? Nobody could do any wrong. What happened in 2020 and 2021? Ransomware. And the ransomware outbreaks that happened took the claims and the loss ratios of these carriers. You kind of mentioned that they started losing the shirt off their back. Absolutely. Loss ratios out of whack. And they kind of knee jerked into a hardening of the market, right? And what that means to your customers, higher premiums, lower coverage, more exclusions. And what came out of it is a good thing. The resiliency of the customer base, of your customer bases for the audience, has gone up. The threats haven't gone down. There are just as many threats out there, but you don't see the claims where they were in 20 and 21 because of the resiliency of the customers listening. And to get a policy, you have to have certain things in place. That has really led to the maturity that we're seeing that you mentioned earlier. But just wanted to give a little color as to why, where we're at today. The demand has never been higher for cyber insurance. Capital, even after 20 and 21, the capital has been reinfused into the market to be able to write more policies. So they see that demand and they see that interest growing, and there's capacity to handle it. So here in a minute, we're going to touch on your question there, Jeff. So we know that, Larry, we know that partners play a key role in helping their clients on their road to resilience. Cyber insurance is a part of it. Can you give a high level of the customer journey? What are some of the considerations partners should be thinking about, right? Pre-incident, incident, and post-incident.
Yep, absolutely. Be glad to do that. So, there's a lot of things that you got to take into consideration. Like, for example, what does a good cyber insurance policy cover? A good cyber insurance policy is going to cover first party and third party so that you're covered in any event on where a potential incident comes from. But, once you get into that policy, obviously it's going to cover for data breaches. It's going to cover for the breach response and remediation. And, there's a whole lot of things that come into play that you just don't think about. You got legal fees, you've got forensics, you've got media relations or PR support, because if you have a business, you do have some type of security incident, and customers get compromised or customer data gets compromised, you got to get a campaign out there to restore faith for your customers, different things like that, because it's going to cost a lot of money to do that. Not only on data breaches that are covered under a good cyber policy, business interruption, cover the cost in getting your business back up and running again, because oftentimes sometimes you may have equipment get bricked, and if you don't know what that is, I mean the equipment gets made totally inoperative. Thankfully, I've never had a brick computer, but I have had a brick cell phone before, and man, it's a pain because all of a sudden it takes you away. It keeps you from being productive. It's going to cost you money to get it fixed, all of that good stuff. So a good cyber policy is going to cover that as well. And then, of course, cyber extortion, also known as ransomware, that is definitely going to be covered by most good cyber insurance policies. And when I say a good cyber insurance policy, the only thing that we deal with here at DataStream are standalone cyber insurance policies. Oftentimes, we'll have MSPs bring us policies of their customers and say, hey, can you do a quick review on it? Which is one of the services that we do for absolutely free. But oftentimes we'll see that that's maybe a rider off of a commercial general liability policy, or maybe off of a business owner's policy. And unfortunately, folks, if it's a rider, there's a lot of stuff a rider does not cover that a good standalone policy will cover. So, we always encourage our partners, hey, if you've got customers that have cyber insurance, send us their policy. We'll be glad to do a free review, because ultimately we want to make sure that everyone has the requisite coverage for their business that's going to protect them when they suffer some type of incident.
So the great thoughts there, Larry. What I like to tell customers and partners alike is partnering with a broker that you trust, right? And asking the questions, what does this fine print mean, is going to make sure that you get the right policy for your customers. So from a cybersecurity standpoint, when I look at pre-incident, it's one of the biggest opportunities for, I believe, for our channel partners out there. Pre-breach services in the form of testing the environment. There are a lot of pen testing, external vulnerability scans, but there's also things like tabletop exercises of understanding red teaming. Actually doing some being a white hat hacker and showing the customer some of the vulnerabilities. But those are services that you can charge the customer for on a pre-incident basis, that understanding why they're looking for a policy and what they're looking for. You can absolutely build a pre-breach services stable of services. But the biggest one is having an incident response plan. So you as a partner asking your customer, if the house catches, if the house catches on fire, if the knucklehead clicks on that email link that he shouldn't have, what is your plan? And having that thought out ahead of time is something that you can get the customers to start thinking about, not only the cyber insurance piece, but all the other services and products that you are able to sell them to in order to satisfy the cyber insurance requirements, but also raise their resilience. Does that make sense, Larry?
Makes total sense. I mean, we kind of call it adopting a holistic approach to all of this. And the MSSPs out there, primary focus has always been on pre-attack, all of the tools on how to prevent a cyber attack. But you really got to kind of take a look at this holistically. And you also got to have the tools and the focus on post-attack or during an attack. You've got, you brought up the incident response plan. Absolutely. The incident response plan. And I got to bring up something a little kind of humorous here. We're all slaves to these electronic devices that we're watching this on and using and all of that good stuff. And I had an MSP. He was talking about a breach that he went through. And he was like, I had an incident response plan, but guess what? It was electronic. I didn't have a paper copy of it. And he was like, I didn't know what to do. So folks, I know that sounds a little funny, but I'm just telling you, if you do have an incident response plan, make sure you got a paper copy of it somewhere so that it's not locked up on your computer and you can't access it. If you don't have an incident response plan, as Vince was just kind of explaining there, this is a good step-by-step document that kind of tells you what you need to do, who you need to contact, the attorneys, internal people, a phone tree, all of that good stuff. And, I'm happy to say that we at DataStream just launched our incident response plan builder. You can go out to datastreaminsurance.com, go out there and you can run it. And in about 10 minutes, you'll have about a 10 or 12 page document that tells you exactly, puts a very good incident response plan in place. So, again, it's that holistic approach. It's the tools, the technology, the legal, the compliance, and then insurance, so that when post-attack does happen, and I hate to sound like everybody else out there, it's not if an incident happens, it's more of when an incident's going to happen.
Absolutely. So before we jump into the next one, I'm going to answer a question from Jeff. What are the best practices for customers to prepare for submission of a cyber insurance application? I've got some thoughts on that, Larry, but I'll give you first crack.
Well, there's definitely some requirements out there to make sure that your customers can get a good policy. And basically, most carriers have kind of narrowed it down to about 5 of them. Some carriers have a few more, but the big 5 that we're always looking for are going to be MFA, immutable offsite or cloud-based backup, EDR, MDR, XDR, some flavor there, employee end user cyber security awareness training. And we're not talking training once a year, we're talking ongoing training. Same thing on the backups, not just one backup a year. Again, this has to be a regularly scheduled backup. Then last but not least, password management, privileged access management, things like that. So that's kind of the requirements that the carriers are looking for. So Vince, I'm going to hand that back to you to say, okay, those are the requirements. What are the practices that you adopt to kind of help your clients along the way?
Absolutely. And as I put my partner hat on, what you just laid out is kind of I don't know, it's a menu that my customer is looking
Bingo.
at cyber insurance. How can I get them to be insurable? And man, I can sell them MFA. I can sell them the backup solution. I can definitely sell them Trend Micro, EDR, XDR. And then there's other options for the training and the password manager. So those 5, almost comes up on every webinar we do. Those are the ones for a partner that creates that menu. What that's going to do, if you implement those, the resiliency will go up. The chances of a breach go down. The risk associated for that customer goes down for the carrier. And as we've seen over the last really 6 to 12 months, the premiums have come back down. Coverages have gone back up. Exclusions are fewer and far between. So what we're doing is taking, the steps that are going to minimize the chances for a breach in a way in which you can create that menu for the customer, so they can apply those techniques, become more resilient, and be safe and never have to make a claim. Hopefully, right?
Absolutely. And you nailed it. We actually have seen in the first half of this year, we've kind of seen some softening on the premiums out there, and it's because we've all gotten a lot more mature about this. We've also gotten a lot more sophisticated about what we're doing and what the MSPs are pushing out to their customers. And, guys, look, I know when you're an MSP and MSSP, you got a tough row to hoe, as we call it back on the farm here. And that's simply because, the media is out there talking about these big, colonial pipelines and stuff like that. And you've got your customers going, I don't need MFA. I don't need XDR. I don't need that stuff. I'm too small. Nobody's going to target me. Nothing could be further from the truth. It's the SMB sector that's getting targeted harder than ever, simply because they're usually the easier ones to go out there and, easier ones to attack.
Larry, it kind of reminds me of the mindset of a partner. And it's my belief, and this is no knock on anybody, is that if partners, MSPs, national partners, doesn't matter, if they sold in, they could make money on the sale of the insurance policy, this thing would have already taken off to the moon, right? So to get around that, being part of your stack, right? And that insurance is something that's going to make your customers stickier, and you can be that along with a partnership with DataStream to be that expert for that. Remember, final leg of risk mitigation. Security solutions mitigate risk, right? That's why this whole industry exists. Cyber insurance just provides that final leg that your customer is looking for, that if the knucklehead clicks, I'm going to be able to stay in business through all the things that a cyber insurance policy covers that you talked about earlier. And I just wanted to address that mindset, in that I believe that an insurance policy is absolutely the way to go for customers that want to take that final leg of risk mitigation. Do you agree?
Totally agree. Again, it folds back into, like we said, this holistic approach. It's in order to have a balanced 3-legged bar stool, you got to have tools, technology, legal and compliance, and cyber insurance. With that, you now have a secure foundation for your customer to sit upon.
Yep.
That easy.
Yes. So we kind of talked about some of the pre-breach services. We talked about what happened, what happens, uh, you know, the process that if a customer has a policy that can you kind of talk about what happens after the breach, and is, is there a time frame of when the incident is cleaned up, the incident response services, all the things that a customer policy covers. Can you kind of walk through the post incident real quick?
Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of ties back into that incident response plan, telling you what to do and what to expect, all of that good stuff, who to contact. But one of the common myths out there that I'm having a hard time talking here. One of the common myths that we hear from people is that, oh, if I get hit, I'll be down for an hour or two. Yeah, you're not going to be down an hour or two. If you are, you're very lucky. You're going to, we have seen attacks and people be down for 30 days or longer. And, that's a whole lot of lost revenue. It's a whole lot of added costs and stuff like that. And that's, worst case scenario. Some of them are a couple of days, couple of weeks, different things like that. But, typically when you see an incident occur, one of the first calls you need to make is straight to your attorney to find out, hey, what do we need to do? What do we have to do from a IT forensic standpoint, different things like that. Call your insurance company. They're going to help give you some instructions as well. And, we help our partners with that. We've got a 24/7 hotline. You can call our hotline and they will give you instructions right away on what you need to do. And, surprisingly, sometimes it's, your first thought is, okay, let's get everything off of the network. Let's turn things off and stuff like that. But sometimes they're going to tell you not to do that simply because you may be destroying some evidence. So, it just depends. I wish there was a cookie cutter that would apply to every single security incident, but there's not, because there's so many different flavors of what's coming in, so many different methods in which the attackers get in there. So there's not one foolproof method that works for everyone. But typically, like I said, if you're a partner of ours, calling our 800 number is going to be the best thing to do right in the middle of a breach or an incident, I should say. And then if you're not a partner of ours, get in touch with your insurance company, get in touch with your attorney, different things like that.
Yeah. Hey, Larry, you kind of mentioned something. I want to throw this out just from an informational standpoint is, why does cyber insurance feel so clunky, right? And it's because these insurance carriers, these big companies that have been around forever, they have for health insurance and car insurance, they have decades and decades of actuarial data that they're able to build their algorithms around. And with cyber, you kind of just mentioned it there, that cyber incidents are not reported. There's a rule coming out for publicly traded companies that'll be taking effect in the second half of this year where they have to report it, but there's no requirements to report it. So there's not, breaches happen, incident response fixes it, and the claims are made, but it's not reported. So there's not a bunch of data sharing going on. And so for the audience, I just wanted to give you a flavor as to why this feels clunky. And as I talk to underwriters and brokers like Larry, it's that they're trying to figure it out, and there's just not a bunch of data out there in which they're used to having in order to make the right determination. What's the right risk for that for this set of customers? So just wanted to throw that in there. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, you're spot on. I mean, there's not a whole lot out there right now. And the other thing is, and was just talking about this earlier today. Right now, there's really not a whole lot of standardization amongst the various cyber carriers out there. And that kind of creates a little bit of confusion because, as I said, we've seen some tiering developing within the cyber carrier, the world out here. And, the better carriers have more requirements, whereas the good carriers don't have as many requirements in order to get a policy, different things like that. So I think it'll help once you see some standardization come into play. And I think that's one of the things that helps differentiate DataStream from anyone else out there. And that is sheerly the fact that we're owned by Envelop Risk, which is the world's third largest cyber reinsurance company. And that means we have access to a lot of claims and policy data. Matter of fact, we can see claims and policy data for about 90% of North American marketplace. And with that, we're actually a data science company under the hood. We kind of drill into that data and we're segmenting it by vertical, by revenue bands within the vertical, so that we can get out there and be a little bit more predictive about what's going on and try to make this a better product, insurance product for everyone.
Excellent, Larry. So we're going to, the last phase of this is exactly what Joanna put in here is when you're talking to your customers, bringing up cyber insurance should not be taboo. Okay.
Right.
And if you introduce it, as I mentioned earlier, the final leg of risk mitigation. Hey, you're looking at Trend Micro for this, you're looking at a backup solution or whatever. Bringing up cyber insurance should be a natural way for you to build that menu. You want to be a full service vendor for your customers, and bringing up cyber insurance doesn't mean that you're not managing the environment properly. You can't control people clicking on links these days. And so breaches, as we've said a couple times, are it's not a matter of if, it's when. And bringing up cyber insurance with your customers should not be taboo. If you need any help, Larry has offered as a full service cyber insurance broker here at Trend. We do have a couple of resources that we are able to help you think about cyber insurance, and some more questions to maybe ask to lead them down that as to why insurance is needed, or why would they want it. There's some resources on the Trend Micro page, and wanted to just make sure that we kind of address that at the end. Is don't be scared to bring it up, because it can lead to you being that full service partner that the customer is looking for. Larry, we got about a minute left. Does anybody any other thoughts about that?
Well, you know what? You're absolutely right on everything you said. I was kind of watching the chat over here. I saw a couple of questions pop up real quick. Dwayne asked about, does DataStream have any industry reports? We've got lots of reports, and we put all of those out there in our partner portal. And to be a partner with us, absolutely free. Feel free to reach out to me or Vince or anybody at Trend. They know how to find me. So we got lots of reports out there that we can share with you. And then, hey, Vince, I think I saw Jeff come out here with a second question talking about, we have customers who use the 5, which I think are the 5 that we were talking about, but told no RDP without VPN. You know, is that a universal truth in the marketplace? Like I said, there's no standardization, so I don't think there is any universal truth out there. I'm sure there are probably some carriers that want that VPN in place. And what I would encourage you to do, Jeff, is reach out to me offline, because I would talk with my agency team, which is another team internally that works with our carriers, and they have a little bit more visibility into some of those VPN type things than perhaps I do, because I'm more on the partner side trying to help our MSP partners.
Excellent. Hey, Larry, this has been fun. I've got a slide to share real quick that I promised to share. Boom. Boom, boom, boom. There we go.
There we go.
So we'd love for you to take the 2-minute survey. You're being self-moderated this time. I think we covered everything that we wanted to. At the end of the day, cyber insurance is the final leg of risk mitigation for your customers. Don't be, it's not taboo to bring it up. And I think it's a way for you to differentiate yourself from your competition. And, you know, it's definitely something that we should all be exploring and figuring out, because it's a ever evolving market. Larry, thank you for your time today. Thank you for the team for setting this up, and we'll see you next time for the next Accelerator series.
Thank you, Vince. Thank you, Trend. We appreciate you guys very, very much.
All right.
Thank you, partners.
Thank you.